For number 6, you need to add a right triangle right here. I forgot to put the symbol for the right angle, so please add that. You can only use trig when you're dealing with right triangles. And the arc is already there. So I'm going to label. This is my hypotenuse, and this is my opposite. Remember, the arc always crosses the hypotenuse and the adjacent. So usually you can pick out the hypotenuse pretty easily. It's the longest side, the one that's across from the right angle. And opposite is across from the arc. You can draw an arrow. Someone said like a bow and arrow, if that helps. And it says write an equation to find x. So I'm going to do my sentence stems. I have my hypotenuse. I need my opposite. So I know SOHCAHTOA helps me to figure out which ratio I need. Hypotenuse, opposite, that's going to correspond to sine. So we're going to write sine, and this is the Greek letter alpha. We don't know the angle, we're just going to put sine of that angle, sine of alpha equals opposite over hypotenuse. Remember, with sine and cosine, the two new ratios that we learned about in this chapter, hypotenuse is always on the bottom. So this is going to be x over 57, and you would put a 1 under sine of alpha, cross multiply, and that would give you x equals 57 sine alpha. And that's it. You can't do anything because we don't have the angle measure. You can't put that into your calculator. Okay. For number 7, I also forgot the right angle, so let's add that to the diagram. And we are solving for x and y here, so we are going to use our calculators. Grab the calculator. Okay, we have 28 degrees for our reference angle. So let's put an arc on our angle. Let's label what we have. 20 is our hypotenuse. X would be the adjacent, and y would be the opposite. So let's do our sentence stems. Let's solve for x first. So I have hypotenuse. I need adjacent. Okay, so hypotenuse and adjacent. H and A corresponds to C, so that's going to be cosine. So cosine 28 degrees equals, cosine is always the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is going to be on the bottom. So x is my adjacent, 20 is my hypotenuse. So we get x over 20. Now here we do have to solve for x, so I'm going to cross multiply. I get x equals 20 times cosine 28 degrees. So 17, well, you probably can't see that, but if I do that on the calculator, it's a little better. 17.659. I'm just going to put 17.6. Okay, and then to solve for y, let's do our sentence stems. I have hypotenuse. I need opposite. So hypotenuse and opposite. If it's got hypotenuse in it, you know it's going to be sine or cosine. Opposite and hypotenuse is sine. So sine 28 degrees equals, sine is always the opposite over the hypotenuse. So y over 20. Let's cross multiply. That gives us y equals 20 times sine of 28 degrees. .389. I'll put 9.4. Okay, for number 8, the street slopes upward at an angle of 17 degrees. Oops, let's get this on the screen. Okay, street slopes upward, angle is 17 degrees with the horizontal. So right there, you know it's going to look like a right triangle. Here's your angle, your reference angle. How high, remember horizontal, this is horizontal, this would be vertical. And let's put our right angle in there. How high does it rise over a horizontal distance of 130 meters? So they're giving us the horizontal distance is 130 meters, and we want to know the vertical change. How high does it rise? Let's put y. So I'm going to solve this just like we solved the last one. Put our arc on there. This is my hypotenuse. I'm not going to label it, and I'm not going to worry about it because I'm not looking for it, and I don't have it. So this would be my adjacent. This would be my opposite. And if I'm dealing with adjacent and opposite, I have adjacent. I need opposite. You might recognize this already as just slope. That's the rise over the run. And when we worked with slope, we were dealing with tangent. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, rise over run. So tangent 17 degrees equals opposite over adjacent, y over 130. So y equals, and notice I'm always putting that number that's being multiplied by the ratio in front. I would strongly encourage you to do that. Okay, 39.745. Let me put 39.7 meters. Okay, pretty straightforward. You've done a bunch of those by now. Hopefully that's easy. Okay, number 9. We've got this picture, and we're solving for x. So the first thing I want you to do is draw these two triangles separately. You could even trace it if you need to. I'll do that. And I'm going to go ahead and put these measurements on here. If I'm looking for x, okay, I know I'm probably going to need this entire length. So DE is 7, EC is 17.5. So then DC would be 7 plus 17.5, which would be 24.5. And then BM is 4.5. MC is 11.25. If I add those together, I'll get BC. So BC is 15.75. And this angle is shared by both triangles, so I'm going to mark this angle. Now, draw the other triangle separate from triangle DBC. Okay, EC is 17.5. MC is 11.25, and ME is 9. So you want to draw your triangles separately, and in order to know what x is, we need to know how these triangles are related. Well, I'm going to look at and see if the sides are in proportion. That include, let's mark this angle C. So this angle is shared by both triangles. let's see what 15.75 divided by 11.25 is. These two sides correspond. And then let's see if 24.5 divided by 17.5 is going to be equal to the same thing. So 15.75 divided by 11.25 is 1.4. 24.5 divided by 17.5 is 1.4. So that tells me that these two sides, whatever I do to 17.5 to get 24.5, I'm going to do the same thing to 11.25 to get 15.75. The sides are in proportion, and the included angle, the angle that's in between those two sides, is congruent. So then these two triangles are similar by side angle side. So there were three ways to determine if triangles were similar. Angle is one that we often see. Side angle side is another one. SSS is another condition for similarity. And if you are struggling with these, there is a checkpoint lesson on these in the back of the book. It will show you examples, it will give you lots to practice with, and it also gives you the answer. So maybe I'll think about doing a video on that to help you. Okay, so now I'm going to solve for x. Now that I know, so basically we know our scale factor is 1.4. I could just do 9 times 1.4 to get this answer. That's fine, as long as you show me this process, show me how you figured out the scale factor. Don't just put the answer without work. No work, no credit. So if I do 9 times 1.4, I get 12.6. So then